you a song, let me give you a song, let me sing you a song, let me sing you a song, from dusk to dawn to the early morn, till the battle is gone.
And welcome back to Dusty Tracks BC. We are so excited to be back in Cranbrook for our fifth and final Cranbrook episode. We have the honor today of being joined by Lisa Barnes.
Hello.
Lisa is a mountain biking coach with Shred Sisters, an organization all through the Kootenays and a little bit of Alberta that focuses on supporting women and making an environment for women to learn and grow in the mountain biking world. A very cool program.
Absolutely. No, I've been involved with Shred Sisters for 4 years now. This is my third year coaching with them. And it's just such an incredible opportunity to see women learning new skills, gaining confidence, and really being able to get out in the trails and recreate and have a good time in a safe way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We were so excited when we started learning about Shred Sisters. Let's start at the beginning though.
Sure.
How about you? Why do you love biking?
Oh man, so my husband and I own a bakery, and we bought that bakery and we were working way too long, way too much at the beginning. And after a couple of years settled into it, and I was like, man, I need to do something with myself. I need to be active. And so a girlfriend was selling a road bike and I bought the road bike. I took it out for a test spin around my neighborhood, and I came back and my husband said that I had this like giant grin on my face, and all I said was, oh, it goes fast. Never been on a road bike with skinny tires before, so it was such a freeing experience. I had the fortune of being backdoor neighbors with a local bike store that's no longer there, but he helped me fit the bike to my body. He answered all of the questions that I thought were really dumb questions, but in a way that was, reasonable and made me feel listened to, and just really helped me grow my passion. So I started road riding. I just found that there were more people that wanted to mountain bike in the area, and it's great to do things with people. So I got I had an old mountain bike that was probably 10 years old at the time, and I'm like, oh, the tires, they say 45 PSI, cool. So I pumped up my tires and we went out and hit the trail, and it was terrifying and I thought I was going to die, and I'm like, why do people want to do this? And the people that I was riding with were like, well, you've got way too much air pressure in your tires. And I thought, well, okay. And so we took some out, and it was a game changer. I'm like, okay, cool. So there's things that I can learn. There's things I can do. And since then it's just blossomed into, I road ride, I gravel ride, I bought a fat bike and I ride on the winter trails that we have groomed here, mountain bike, I bike pack, so overnight camping with my bike. And just getting involved with Shred Sisters was an opportunity for me to help other women. Like, women just learn differently, and guys oftentimes, I would say, how do you do this feature? Like, I feel like the bike is losing control, or I want to get a little bit of air, and the response I'd get was, oh, you just send it, or you just go for it. And men,
Just go for it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, men really learn through trial and error, and women really like to understand the why before they go forward with it. So so I sort of started on the road and took all of them in for cycling, and now have been focused with Shred Sisters and trying to help others learn as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Gravel, trail, mountain bike, fat. How many bikes do you have?
7.
That was my guess.
Yeah, one of them is on my trainer because I also ride indoors. I'm a Zwifter. I'm not a Pelotoner, but it's an old bike that doesn't leave the trainer in my basement. And gravel, mountain, road, all of them, but 7. And my husband has the equal amount of guitars. So that's how we keep the balance.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Balances out each side of the house.
Exactly.
And just for those of us who are not bike literate,
Yeah.
walk me through the differences in biking. Like, what is gravel bike riding?
Yeah, so gravel riding is, it's not new, but I guess new to me. I picked up my gravel bike during the pandemic, actually here from North Star Bikes. And it's a very similar geometry of a road bike. You got those curly bars, but the tires are a lot thicker, so you can accommodate, chunkier terrain, less puncture, more puncture resistant. But really, you can ride them on forest service roads. You can ride them on, we have rails to trails that goes up to Kimberley. It's paved. You can ride them on single track trails in the community forest. They're really versatile. It just really depends on how spicy you want to get with regards to what terrain you're riding them on. But it's a good evolution from road because you have the safety of not having so many vehicles coming up behind you. You can ride 2 or 3 abreast. It's a little more social. And then there's more gravel events that are happening as well. So a big community behind it that's developing here in the Kootenays.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of all these different types, you do so many different types. So why so many? What do you love about them?
I love the variety. I love the fact that you can get on a bike and go, and you're self-propelled, you're on your own steam, and you're in the middle of nowhere. A little bit of rocky noise back there. But your body's a powerful thing, and it's really cool to know what you're capable of. And yeah, for bike packing, like I just did a weekend trip. A girlfriend and I went out. We were in the middle of nowhere.
How recently?
This last weekend. So we rode out to the Flathead Valley on our bikes, fully loaded. It was her first trip. And it was so cool to be involved with her first trip. All of the experiences of like riding a bike that all of a sudden is like 55 pounds, and you're used to these like super agile mountain bikes. And the weight distribution and the change and how that reacts under your body, and just realizing that we pedaled, we overnighted, and then we made our way back in rain and mud and awfulness. We saw grizzly bears. There were 2 grizzly bears that we passed, and then followed their footprints for about 5 kilometers, which is a little disconcerting, but all on our own steam, right? And you can have a basic bike and do these things. You can have the most expensive bike to do these things, but it's all about your passion and your body that's going to bring you there. And the freeness of it, and you're not conforming to anything. You can choose your own adventure. I think I got way off track, but
no, I love
your question.
hearing the passion. Like there's so much passion behind what you do with biking. So
Yeah.
it's lovely to hear. I was giggling a little bit though, for context, I will admit. I was giggling that you had been finished telling us that you were in Scotland about a week and a half ago.
2 weeks ago,
2 weeks ago, and that this coming Friday you were leaving town once again to bike across a large chunk of BC.
Yeah.
So I was giggling at the constant busyness.
And the fact that I'm just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do this. I have problems for sure. Bike addiction.
I mean, problems, hobbies, are they really,
Yeah,
you know?
and it's adventure, right? It's going out of your comfort zone and finding what your body's capable of. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to finish this 1,000-kilometer ride, but it's terrifying, and it sort of stretches your boundaries. And cool, if I make it, that's awesome. If I don't make it, I have some goals for next year, and I know what I can do differently. And I think it's all about that self-development and knowing what you're capable of, because so this race is, I'd known other people who'd done it previously. 2 years ago, I was like, there's no way I could do that. Like, you guys are nuts. And here I am 2 years later signing up, and the start line's on Saturday. So it's neat to see that progression as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And what is this race?
So it's called the BC Epic. It's a fully self-supported bike packing race. It's similar to the Tour Divide that goes from Banff to the Mexican border, but it just stays in BC. So this is from Merritt to Fernie, so just over 1,000 kilometers.
And bike packing, does that mean you're biking all day long and then camping,
Yep.
and then biking all day long and then camping?
Exactly. So my tent, sleep mat, food, water, everything's on the bike. This one is a fortunate route in that there's lots of refill stations and stops, so you can eat real food instead of having to pack a lot of stuff with you. But there's lots of sections where you do have to plan and be aware, and and pedal.
Sounds like a lot of pedaling.
Yeah.
How long do you anticipate 1,000 kilometers would take?
My original goal was to be 5 days, and I've had to reassess that because I just started to get super anxious about what if I don't make it, and it's going to be such a disappointment. So I'm approaching this as I'm touring it. I'm going to see for the first time if I can do it, and if it takes me a week on my bike, cool. That's a really great week-long vacation. If I get it in 5 days, even better. I know what I'm capable of. And then, I can fine-tune it and shorten it up from there.
Wow. That's wild. To imagine doing 200 kilometers a day for 5 days is insane.
Yeah.
Doing it in a week, that is wild.
Yeah.
I'm impressed at even the attempt, and I'm going to be even more impressed in 2 weeks to hear how it goes.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting one for sure.
Wow. And this isn't the first time you've done a long extended bike trip, right? You've done
Cops for Kids, yeah. So I've been involved with Cops for Kids for, this will be my 4th ride with them. So they're a foundation that raises money to support kids in the Southeast District that are suffering from medical, physical trauma.
The Southeast District being this region of the Kootenays.
Yeah, in BC. So it's all RCMP based. So it's the RCMP Southeast District. So we start in Kelowna and we pedal our bikes all the way through to Cranbrook. We have a relocation day where we drive to Salmon Arm and then we continue the pedal from Salmon Arm back to Kelowna, and that's all within that region.
Okay.
And as we go, we've got community sponsorships, Lions Clubs, Rotary Clubs that sponsor us for meals. We get sponsored for our accommodation. But the best part is that we meet the kids that we help along the way. So families come and do presentations, and it's like the most thankful time. I have sunglasses because there's usually always tears when you hear of the kids that have suffered and how just this small fundraising initiative that we do can help them make their life more comfortable. But that ride is also 1,000 kilometers. It's a bit different because it's fully supported. I just get on my bike and pedal, and somebody feeds me, somebody tells me where I need to be and what time I need to be there. But again, it's a matter of mind over matter, and you still suffer. But in that respect, you're suffering for kids that don't have the choice, and we're choosing to be in that experience. So, yeah.
So you've before this day biked 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
Consecutively.
Yeah. That one's over 10 days. Yeah.
Still quite remarkable.
Yeah.
It's a long distance.
It's funny when you start to do these things and then like in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, well, I've done that before. Like, that's cool. It's like, and you sometimes forget when you chat with somebody who doesn't do these things that, yeah, this is a pretty remarkable achievement and feat. So
very much
yeah.
so. Like, I'm a fairly fit person. Like, I can run, I can do things, I can lift things, but biking is definitely, like, to bike that much in one day is quite hard to wrap my mind around. So it's impressive to hear about. Wow. You've done it 3 times so far. This will be your 4th time this year.
Yeah. The first one was during the pandemic. It was a bit different. We were all doing our own little area, just cycling the 1,000 kilometers. But and it's super cool to be involved with a group that's that large as well. So riding kind of in a peloton. We're also, because it's with the RCMP, they manage the traffic for us. So you've got, so there's a fellow at the front, Gavin, and he's on a motorbike, a beautiful Harley Davidson motorbike, and he's so skilled. He'll be riding at a cycling pace, so it's hard to move those heavy machines super slow, and he'll actually kick debris off the road for us, with the exception of he doesn't touch fruit and he doesn't touch dead animals because he doesn't want to clean it off his boots. But yeah, like kicking rocks and tree limbs, like it's amazing to watch how he can maneuver that. But he manages us up front, and then we have a PC at the back as well that manages traffic to keep us all safe on the road, which is such a treat to have as well.
I bet. And okay, so you've done 1,000 kilometers 3 times over. You're doing it again next week.
Yeah.
So you were biking all the time. How much have you biked internationally? I hear Ramiro was biking in Scotland.
Yeah. So I did rent a bike in Scotland, and I got this crazy suction cup bike rack so we could put it on the rental car.
You're saying that you bought a bike rack in Cranbrook, took it with you on the plane over to Scotland, so you could carry your bike around Scotland.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to bring my whole bike to Scotland because we were also in London. There's a method there. But and that was actually the first time we went to Europe in 2018. I had arranged guided rides while I was there. So I met up with somebody, they got a bike for me. I just brought my pedals and my helmet, and they took me on a guided ride. And so this time I was a little more confident, and I just thought I could make it up my own. I could make my own rides, and it worked super well. I rode, when I was in Glasgow, we were right by a park. Their infrastructure for cycling lanes is unbelievable. Hopped on my bike, rode through the park on a bike path. It was a 90-kilometer ride, so it was out and back to the Falkirk Wheel. I didn't go any longer than 4 minutes without seeing another user, whether they were a cyclist or a runner or a walker. So highly utilized. And I crossed 3 roads, and that was it, in 90 kilometers. And so there's underpasses, overpasses. It was so incredible. But I rode on Islay, on the Isle of Skye, in Inverness, near Perth. I've cycled in Ireland, in Mexico.
And were these all road tripping? Road biking?
Yeah, so this recent trip was gravel and road. I was going down a trail and there were some hikers coming up and, oh, you don't want to go down there. I was like, oh, why not? And, oh, it gets steep. I'm like, oh, like how steep? Oh, real steep. And okay, and I rode my bike down, and for us in the Kootenays and the style of trail that I'm used to, I'm like, oh, this is fine. But these people just thought I was absolutely nuts. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So yeah, it was really neat to get out into some of the backcountry. I mean, it was more front country there, but the other ones were mostly road riding. Yeah.
That's so cool. There's something really funny about coming from BC and being somewhere else that maybe doesn't have the same level of mountains that we have, and talking about how steep something is.
Yeah.
I've definitely, actually, bike riding in Europe, I've like got myself in trouble because they're like, oh, just ride to the mountain and you'll find it. And I was like, okay. And so I rode, and they're like, it's like 5 minutes. And I like kept riding and like 45 minutes in, I was like, there's been
You've gone
no
up the
mountains.
mountain and down.
Yeah, I'm just like a hill.
Yeah, a little anthill.
Yeah. And I'm sure I don't have a scale of what steep would be for you on a mountain bike, because it all seems incredibly steep to me on mountain bikes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mine.
Yeah.
Biking, actually. So you teach with Shred Sisters. How much do you teach, and what do you teach?
Yeah, so I am a level 1 PMBIA instructor. So I teach beginner to intermediate. It's really cool because being involved over a few years, as I've had students that started as beginner and kind of work their way up, which has been great to see their progression and just the confidence as well. But it's neat in that so the bike club has Tuesday night ladies rides. And they were well attended pre-pandemic. Shred Sisters started in Cranbrook 4 years ago, and we had a shutdown, of course, when social distancing was a thing. And then when we came back from that, like the women's group rides just exploded. And that's not all due to Shred Sisters. Like I think women in general just started riding more. But to see a lot of the students that are showing up each week and progressing, and it's just a really comfortable environment for them to learn and grow in. But yeah, we do skills sort of for the first hour of the class, and then we take those skills out onto the trails and try to adapt them in real life situations.
That's really cool. So walk me through that a little bit. Like, what would be an example skill you would do with them to then
Yeah.
try on the trail?
So day 1 is basics. We talk about body position, proper body positioning. We talk about proper braking, how to brake, what side of, front and back.
So to stop, so you're pulling.
Yeah.
So you're going to say.
Do, 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 do.
Sometimes we have little hold signs.
Yeah.
And they're like, really?
I'll just provide the music.
Please do. Please do. It's beautiful music.
Yeah.
I think we might almost be okay.
Cool.
Almost.
I like it.
Yeah.
Ba,
Yeah.
ba, da, 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 da,
You'll have to keep singing forever. I think it's going to
da,
last.
da, da, da,
Forever.
da.
Ever since the update, we don't have our standby.
Oh.
We actually have a standby sticker that's like our
Oh,
logo.
cool. I
Yeah.
like
I
it.
was really pleased when they
Updates.
figured
2
out how
steps
to do
forward
it.
and 1 step back, right?
So true.
Yeah.
Skills, body
Yeah,
positioning,
yeah.
day 1. Tell me more.
Body positioning, we talk about braking. Oftentimes when you go and you get your bike, you just start riding and you think you just pedal and you brake and that's all you need to do.
Definitely, that's what all you do.
Yeah, so it's really a matter of how to use these brakes. Am I using more front? Am I using more rear? What's the importance of these? What do they do? What's different? How do I shift? How do I make it sound like I'm super slick and quiet instead of that really chunky, like, exactly. The bike shops love that sound because just get new money into your new derailleurs. But yeah, shifting, body position, braking is kind of our first day, which is a bit, like it's a lot of information to take in. And then sort of as we move into it, we talk about cornering. We talk about how to climb properly so you're not climbing and feeling like that front wheel's always going to pop up. We talk about descending, how to descend safely and in a really stable position. And like roll down lunges when you see like a trail or a rock or a route to cross the trail. Like how do we navigate that so we don't have to get off our bike and haul it down and then get back on again? Like we can ride these things. So yeah, and watching students have those aha moments, or like at the end of the class yesterday I had a session and we were riding back to where we were parked and one of the girls was like, I had to like experiences today. I'm like, really? What were they? And you know, it's just sometimes you say something and it connects with somebody, and you can say it in an entirely different way and it'll connect with somebody else. And in this situation, it was just her body position. And she said, when you told me that I needed to like feel like I was like a little more forward, like it should feel a little uncomfortable, and I did that, I'm like, yeah, I felt uncomfortable, but I was so stable. And she's like, I just needed to hear that I need to be uncomfortable to feel stable. So yeah, just watching her have that moment, and it kind of sparks joy in her eye, and she just wants to get out and try that again. Like I get so excited about that, and to have them share that passion too. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it all over your face.
Yeah.
The excitement. It's really good to see. Like, we all should be lucky enough to have teachers that are like that invested in us learning things and that in love with what they're doing and what they're teaching. It's great.
Yeah.
How many then with this like beginner course yesterday? How many different sessions will you do? Like, is that
Yeah, so it's usually 4 sessions. Shred Sisters also offers like weekend clinics as well if you wanted to do a refresher course in the spring before riding season. But the weekly sessions are 4 sessions. They're 2.5 hours each. We like to, have a little beer after the last one, which is always good to talk about everyone's experiences. And it's cool because I've also seen friendships that are made, and then they'll go and continue to ride outside of the classes as well. And it's super neat to see that community.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what are some other moments? Like, what do you love about working with the students? What do you see them learning the quickest?
Yeah, it's interesting because bikes exploded, right? Like bike shops had that issue where they just couldn't get enough in, and so in classes we'll have everything from like a 90s older mountain bike to these fancy new e-assist mountain bikes. And it's neat for students to sometimes see that just because you don't have the nicest bike doesn't mean that you can't achieve good things or great things. So it's also interesting to provide them that opportunity to say, you don't need the biggest and the fanciest. Like, you can still make do with what you've got. This isn't something that should be elitist, or you need to, always be investing. Like, we can do great things with 2 wheels that roll. We just need to maintain what we've got. So that's always really exciting because people always think, I need to get something new. I need to have a better bike to do better. It's like, actually, if we can change some of your body positioning and some of those skills, you're going to have this dialed. You're going to be able to, sure, a new bike is always great and exciting, but, that's really neat. But also, like, a big game changer people have is shoes. Oftentimes people are riding with runners that have those really knobby lugs at the bottom of them, and they have a really hard time contacting with the pedal. So I'm always slipping around, or I just don't feel stable. And they invest in a good pair of mountain biking shoes, which you can get secondhand. You can, it's not cost prohibitive, but they're intended to stick to those pedals. And it's just, I've had game changer moments for some students where they're like, I honestly thought you were just telling me I needed, doing the sales pitch for whatever brand. And they bought the shoes and they were like, I honestly didn't think it would make such a difference. And so it's those little things that you can tweak for people that make the difference for them.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But talking about that cost and trying to keep it from being elitist,
Yeah.
how do you do that? Because we were talking before, we're looking at these beautiful bikes here, the North Star. And oh my God, they're beautiful. But these each go, like the least expensive one behind us is $8,000.
Yeah.
But these are the nicest top level bikes behind us. But how do you get people into it that don't have much money?
They just need a bike that rolls, that's safe, right? So like I said, I've had ladies that are on bikes from the 90s that are hardtail. They don't have any of the suspension. The front fork has a little bit of squish, but none of the travel that we have here. But people biked in the 90s. They did janky, scary stuff in the 90s, right? A lot of these bikes make it more comfortable for you, but it doesn't give you, I was going to say it doesn't give you power, but I guess it does if it's an e-bike. But there's no, it makes it more comfortable. It makes your body more comfortable. But at the end of the day, you can ride anything, especially in the trails that we have here. It's really your mind and your confidence, and the people that you're riding with. If they're supportive and encouraging, you can make adaptations. Bikes have evolved. But cycling really is still pedaling. Those wheels are rolling, you're moving along on a trail. So whether you're doing that on the squishiest, smoothest, most comfortable $9,000 bike, or you're doing it on something that, you know, you can afford and that works in your life right now, cool, you can ride those same trails. It's just a matter of I would say arguably how comfortable it is, but also your skill set. Those people that are on the older bikes are probably more skilled than, you know, those newer riders on the fancy bikes. Maybe. We should have a contest.
That would be a cool contest.
Yeah.
So it's honestly good to hear because someone took us mountain biking while we were here in Cranbrook, and I loved it. It was so much fun. But like, as someone who already has way too many hobbies, like trying to get into something that really, like, you need a specific bike, you need like all these things, like, it's good to hear that it is really becoming more accessible, or it always has been accessible.
Yeah. And again, like, the marketing of all of these new fancy, you know, more travel and yeah, there's absolutely, if you can afford those things, go for it. Like, it's going to make it comfortable. If it's going to give you confidence, that's cool. But at the end of the day, you know, my bike packing bike is a rigid steel bike, and I take it on group rides as well. Like, you don't need to be fancy. You don't need to always look good. You don't need to match. You just need to have the passion and the desire to get out there and try new things.
I still don't know very much about biking, but a rigid steel bike on mountain bike trails, is
Yeah.
that as badass as it sounds? That sounds like it'd be very badass.
Yeah, I guess.
Mike's
It could be
nodding behind
badass.
the camera. Just sounds harder.
Yeah. Well, right. Your body's absorbing. I don't have the suspension, so your body becomes the suspension.
No suspension?
I do have a fork on that bike, but yeah.
That sounds very hard.
You make me sound so great.
I'm not doing much. I'm not doing anything. It's just you. But the trails around Cranbrook.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I hear there's been a big explosion. There's a lot of really great trails.
Yeah, so I also sit on the community forest. I'm on the bike club board. I'm on the community forest board. It's been so awesome to see just how the management of our community forest is. So we have a partnership. So there's sort of our main area. I point over here. Nobody on camera can see because that's where our community forest is. It's behind you.
Forest. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. So we have over 1,000 hectares that the community forest manages through Rec Sites and Trails BC. And we have everything from blue trails, green trails to black trails. We don't quite have double black if you're comparing us to like Whistler double black, but we have Cranbrook. We call them Cranbrook double black diamonds. So it's accessible for everybody. We also have a large section of private land that the landowner has been gracious enough to let us use and build trails on. And we just have everything from cross-country riding. We have a little bit of downhill stuff, which is these black trails. We also have green adaptive trails that have been recently built as well to accommodate adaptive bikes. So folks that maybe have trikes or they just need a little bit of a wider stance in their bike can utilize these trails as well, which has been great to be more inclusive. But yeah, the Community Forest Society manages these trails. We do trail building sessions through the bike club. And manage and maintain the beautiful forest that we have. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, yeah, I remember when I lived in like Red Deer and we were just so stoked on riding, and he went and looked up on Trail Forks, which is an app that has trails on it, the trails that they had in Red Deer, and he's like, you basically would like have a 8K trail and then have to, you know, ride to the next trailhead, and you look at the breadth and what we have here in Cranbrook. We are so fortunate. But yeah, there's a little bit of everything for everybody.
And why do you think that's important to the biking community? Like, why have so many trails that are accessible?
Yeah, I think it's important to have something comfortable for beginners, especially kids cycling. The College of the Rockies fundraised and built a little jump line that comes off of the community forest property onto their section. And it's just so cool to ride past there and see these little kids just sending it and like looping it, right? So it's important to have these beginner trails for that, for families to get out, you know, something that I can take. I don't personally have kids. I have a pug she's enough of a handful. But you know, you want to see people out there with their kids on the trail bikes or the Mac rides, and they're able to use these rides on trails anywhere in our forest, really. But then also to have some of the challenging features to, you know, as those kids grow and as they progress, that they can, you know, give themselves a bit of a challenge as well. But yeah, our cross-country riding is great. And I think it's good to build the confidence for people, and they can also go off to ski hills and bike parks and try some gnarlier stuff.
What's a Mac ride?
It's this cool little seat that adapts onto your handlebars. So the kid sits and it goes onto your top tube, sorry. And they sit on that, and they also hold the handlebars. So when you're riding, your kid's basically sitting in front of you, and you can take them down trails still. It's super cool.
That must be so cool for the kids.
Yeah.
Just like ripping down.
Yeah. I'm thinking though, I've never, again, had a kid on my bike, but I'm like, I know. Pug, I have a basket on the front. But like the whole weight distribution, like it would be.
Yeah.
And then, so I did do a ride with Rosie in my backpack once with my husband, and it was like Rosie's my pug, not my husband. But yeah, it was like the extra 20 pounds, like hauling her up a hill it was awful. But my husband loved it. He's like, oh, I can finally keep up with you on the climbs now. But yeah, Mac rides are so cool. When you see people out like that, it just makes my heart sing that families are out enjoying the forest.
I am so impressed by people that can do extreme sports and then take their kids.
Yeah, and then these kids
on your own.
are like doing jumps and like just, oh, yeah.
The amount of times I've been outpaced by small children on the snowboard hill is just remarkable. Like,
they're also rubber bands, right? Like they
true.
just fall and bend, and then they get up and they're like, wow, that's great, let's do it again.
And there's me, it's like, yeah, I went snowboarding once this month and I'm still in pain.
Yeah, I still feel it in my legs. Great.
Wow, it is so cool to see how much of a bike community there is in Cranbrook and how open it is too. We were talking to someone else that mountain bikes around here, and he was like, yeah, I saw one of those ladies rides, and I don't think I'm going on the same night ever again. There was so many people.
Yeah, we had, so pre-pandemic, there'd be maybe 20, 25 women who would show up to the ladies' rides on Tuesday nights. And the last 2 years, our first ladies' rides have been over 45 women. Like,
how do you all fit on the trail?
We split up into groups. So there'll be like a green group, there'll be a blue-green group, there'll be a blue group, they have black groups. We try to keep it ideally like eight in a group is great, and then you don't get too strung out. But that first day, Jill, she's the woman who runs the women's rides for the bike club. She's like, I don't know what to do. Like, we're trying to get new group leads because we just didn't expect that many people to show up. Yeah. But yeah, and so Thursday night is the bike club's co-ed rides. And, they've been super well attended as well, 30, 35 people. And same thing, split up into groups. And again, because we have so many trails here, like once you split off from the parking lot, it's pretty great to, you don't really bump into people because there's so many areas that you can go to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was surprising to me when we were on the trails, like how few people we saw.
Yeah.
Considering how popular it is and like how many riders there are.
Yeah, this spring, so we have an area called Eager Hills. It's the Star Wars trails. So there's Chewbacca Rocka, Luke Skywalker, Ewok and Roll, Padawan and Pod Racer, which are these adaptive trails. All of the trail names are Star Wars based, but it is always the first trail network to dry out in the spring. So there'll be times where that parking lot is packed, and then there's vehicles in like the overflow on the highway. People will park in town and ride their bikes there. We get people from Invermere and Kimberley and Fernie coming down that are just like so jacked to start riding. But it's the Kootenays, right? You can, ski at the ski hill, go for a mountain bike ride, go for a fat bike ride across town at South Star, all within the same weekend in the spring. It's so amazing.
That's insane. That would be such a good weekend.
There's people that in the road riding community here that I know a fellow who every year he'll take his bike and ride it up to Kimberley, do his, cross country ski, and then bring his bike back to there's so many opportunities to recreate out here. It's amazing.
That's really cool. Because there's a trail right from here to Kimberley, right? A dedicated mountain biking trail?
Yeah. So it's called the North Star Rails to Trails. It was developed through Rotary and a bunch of initiatives. Oh gosh, I want to say it's just over 10 years old now. But it's a fully paved rail grade trail that runs from Cranbrook all the way through Marysville and up to Kimberley. And the users that you see on there, even in the last 5 years, have grown exponentially. And what really gets me excited is like you see elderly people out on e-bikes that otherwise wouldn't be able to do it, and they're just cruising, out for a stroll on their bike, and it's just so great to see that it's becoming accessible for people. Yeah, and everywhere from like road riders that are like racing, going for like personal bests on Strava, to families. It's been really great to see. But it's a really, really well used trail. Then we have a gravel trail called the Isidore Trail, the Chief Isidore Trail, and it runs from Cranbrook all the way down to Mayuk.
Wow.
So I think that's about 45 kilometers one way, and also super, super well used.
So cool.
Yeah. Bikes are fun.
I've heard you like them. Those are rumor.
Yeah.
Just going back to Shred Sisters a little bit. Tell me more about why it's important. Like 40 women in like one of these cycling clubs on a Tuesday night. Why is it so important to have a predominantly women group?
Yeah, so in my experience, women just feel more comfortable with each other, right? They don't feel that pressure. Guys, again, they just send it. And if they don't, so my brother will probably not be happy that I'm telling this story, but he wanted to ride a teeter-totter. And so this is a total segue.
Context for how old you were?
This is like a couple years ago.
Okay, and so he's riding the teeter-totter on his bike.
Yeah, so my brother's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
So we're all adults. We're doing this.
Got it.
So, but he wanted to, yeah, I guess that
I was imagining a 4-year-old being like, no, I can do the teeter-totter better than you.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. I'm going to make sure he watches this segment. But no, so teeter-totter, from a cycling perspective, I should explain. So it's a little bit higher off the ground.
Okay.
And they can vary in width, right, depending on who's built it. So it is a bit of a, spicy feature.
Yes.
But he wanted to ride a teeter-totter. So, okay, cool, let's go ride some teeter-totters. So we went up to this trail. And I rode over the teeter-totter, cool, and then I stopped to be like, okay, cool, like let's talk about this, figure out how you're going to approach this. No, he just kept on going, and I'm like, dude's going way too slow. This is not going to end well. And so he got up, and he didn't even get to like the totter point, and like totally exploded off of his bike and bailed. And I was like, that looked. And he's like, oh yeah, I need to go faster. I'm like, well, there's a few things you could do differently. Yeah, faster. And then he went again to try, and it was just like in that male, for him, he just needed to keep trying it until he did it. And so a woman that I've ridden with approaches that. She's like, okay, well, like, what do I do? I'm like, cool, so let's have this chat. Like, what scares you about this? Well, she's like, well, I'm scared that I'm gonna get up there. I'm not gonna be able to get around. I'm like, okay, great. So we need to make sure we have a good speed while we approach this so that we can get over it. We talk about our body position. We talk about where you're looking. And, she's a much more novice rider than my brother was when he had approached that, but she nailed it on the first time because we stopped, we talked about it, we thought about it, and then she put all those pieces together. And it's funny because my brother's friend did the same thing the first time, and I'm like, hey, maybe next time you should just try doing this and this and this, and he rode over no problem. So women enjoy the understanding of it. They enjoy the communication and being able to talk about it. And I think men just like to go and do it. And sometimes there's that intimidation factor, right? There's that, oh, if those guys can do it, like I really need to show them that I can do it, but I don't know. And then they get intimidated. And there's rock features that you can roll in the community forest that the group ride will just go out and they'll session it. And if you feel comfortable, cool, you can try it. If you don't, they'll just stand on the sidelines and cheer each other on. And I think that's what makes it so great for women to be riding together, is that we're all each other's cheerleaders. We're all each other's supporters. And when one of us succeeds, everybody just feels that pride. And, nothing against men, but oftentimes it's a little more, it's burlier. It's like, you don't get that, sort of camaraderie and that celebration. It's definitely a lot more of a competitive feel. So I think that's why it's important, and why women feel more comfortable to come to those rides. And that's also with Shred Sisters, why we're women only. We've had guys, oh, I want to learn. Like nobody has that program here in Cranbrook. Like, can I join? Like, can I shave my legs and wear a wig? And yeah, we would love to, but our whole premise is being able to be comfortable and be amongst women and ask the questions and do the thought process and have the dialogue. And that's why we're women only. And it's been so great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, because there is, like, as someone who's tried a bunch of different things, it's always the environment you learn it in is so important. Like, when you learn in that good environment, you want to go back and do it again. And, like, definitely not always. Like, there's so many great guys out there that also cultivate that, but it is so different.
And I think too there absolutely are male coaches out there. I'm not trying to, totally throw men under the bus, but in that group ride context or in that learning context, oftentimes, like, we've had women that are like, I am going to divorce my husband if I'm going to have him continue to teach me how to mountain bike. Like, this is why I signed up for this. And she looks over. But it's hard because you have that relationship and there are no boundaries. Well, there are boundaries, but not. And so, the guys kind of put pressure on your spouse to perform, or, oh, you got this. Just turn your brain off and just roll it, let it go. And that's not what they need to hear, right? Like, we need to hear, cool, like, you listen to your body, like, you've got this, you've got the confidence, you know what you're doing, you're prepared for this, and then they move forward with it. So, yeah.
And there's a different type of pressure too, I think, when you're with someone. I've definitely felt that personally as a woman, like, riding with guys, or like, you're like, well, you have so much that mindset of like, well, if a guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna back down. I'm not supposed to swear.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna back down. So, like, but to, like, remove that piece of it is, yeah, even if you're with supportive guys, there's just the internal pride.
Absolutely.
Like,
I need to represent.
Yes.
But what's so cool, so there was a rock roll that we were sessioning last night on my class, and it was rainy and it was wet, and it's not the most ideal time to be.
Nasty yesterday.
I know.
Nasty.
We go rain or shine because we're tough girls.
Which might be proved tonight.
But so we were sessioning this rock, and I said to you got to listen to your body, right? Sometimes I've had rides where I've been fatigued going into it, and I get to a section that I've ridden before and I know I'm capable, but my brain is just like, I don't want to think, I don't want to do, and I'm like, this isn't worth it. And so I walk it, or you just got to listen to your body. Sometimes it's your day and sometimes it's not. So there was one gal that's like, no, I got this, I can do this. And then I had two gals that were like, I'm going to watch her and see how she does. And then I think I got this. And then I had two other girls that were on the fence, and they were like, no, you know what? Like, I want to do this in good conditions. Like, I want to give myself the best setup. I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that. So I'm going to give you a rain check, and we're going to go out riding when the weather's great, and we're going to do this together because I know you're capable of it, and I don't want you to get out here and psych yourself out. But anyway, rainy, they did this roll. And one of the girls is like, I can't wait to get back here and show my husband. Like, this is going to be so great. So it's so cool to learn it, do it, and then be able to go back to these guys and be like, check out what I can do now. Yeah, I'm going to teach you how to bike. But yeah, it's just that pride. And then, yeah, they share it with their family too. They share it with their kids, and then they're developing a whole nother generation of cyclists.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, like, to be in that learning environment sounds, yeah, just amazing, because, like, it's so rare as women you get to be that, like, totally surrounded by women and to learn something without the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool environment. I'm honestly kicking myself that we don't have more time at Cranbrook, so I can't come. But
yeah, you should come back and do like a weekend clinic.
I might have to. Mike's giving me a thumbs up. We might have to come back. We have to find bikes first is our biggest task.
Oh, but that's not a problem. I have 7, remember?
I don't know if I'd do good with solid steel.
You could choose.
I'm not as much of a badass.
I'll let you choose, and then I'll take the leftovers.
Oh man. Well, is there anything you feel you want the world to know about Shred Sisters that you want to talk about in terms of biking?
Yeah, I think that Shred Sisters, there's programs. I know there's other programs out there, not within Cranbrook specifically, but in the Elk Valley and the East Kootenays that offer women's only coaching and co-ed coaching too. And I think they're all great. I think I was so fortunate to get involved with Shred Sisters, and they gave me so much more confidence in my riding that, you know, I'm like, if you had asked me 7 years ago when I was like, yeah, this road bike goes so fast, you know, like, hey, are you going to go do these 1,000-kilometer rides and be coaching other women? And like, no way, man. Like, there's no way I'd be doing that. And here I am doing it. And I honestly think that Shred Sisters, for me, was that pivotal moment of being able to learn, be safe and be confident. And then I can now share that with others. And it's just to see where Shred Sisters has come from. I don't know how long they've been. I think it's been I don't know. I'll be making up a number. I was going to say 18, but that was probably made up. Sorry, Audrey. But it's only been in Cranbrook for 4 years. But to see the other coaches as well and how long they've been involved with Shred Sisters and their passion, and other students like that have started as a student and a couple years later they become coaches as well because they believe in it. And just the organization itself supports other women. It supports our professional development to make sure we're still learning as coaches. And it supports the community. Audrey has been able to get involved with sponsors so that if you can't afford a course but you really want to take it, there's sponsorship opportunities. So it just sends shivers down my spine to think about, how we're affecting other people and how we're affecting their lives. And I know I'm weird and I have 7 bikes and I do it all and I'm super passionate about it. But if that little glimpse of it can just be like a quarter into somebody else or an eighth, I just think it gives you so much joy when you're out there and you're going fast, you're going slow, you're climbing a hill and you're hating yourself. And then you get to the top. Like I used to say, I can climb anything. I love it. I just hate descending. And now it's like, oh man, I love it all. I love the climb. I love getting to the top, just rolling it, going over the rocks, the roots, choosing your own adventure. And if we can instill that in other women and that confidence to get out there and ride on their own without their husbands, that's awesome. That's just so cool. I'm so fortunate to be involved with Shred Sisters. It's been such a great journey.
So well said. I have no follow-up questions. That was so well said. Except for one.
Yeah.
What does it feel like when you're at the top of the hill, looking down?
Yeah.
You're on your mountain bike.
Yeah.
You've got all these other women around you. How's it feel? It's
empowering. It's to think of not where I started from, but, really I would have thought, it's like, oh, we've been riding my whole life and I can do this. I just think the progression that I've had, I'm proud of myself for what I've done. I'm proud of myself for what I've accomplished, but I'm also proud of these women for taking that choice and that step to learn and be safe and have fun and get free. I think it's more exciting when you see them at the top and they're a little bit nervous and they're a little bit hesitant and you ride this trail or this feature or whatever you're sessioning and they do it and just that smile or that, oh my gosh, and they just get so excited. For me, I'm super proud of myself, of what I've done and how I can teach others. But to watch them go from that, from the beginning of class when people don't know their right or their rear from their front brakes or proper body position, or they're just I don't know, I had a big crash and I don't want to do that again. To see that progression over the 4 days and 4 weeks because they've been out riding on their own, I'm just so proud of them and for doing what they do and getting out there and, having fun and learning. I just think it's so neat.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
a sliver of that passion with us.
Oh,
We have an audience question?
I have a handful of audience questions.
Oh, handful.
Q&A.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you first in the orange shirt.
I'm gonna say it's peach.
Over here. Rewinding it back a little bit to the traveling portion.
Yeah.
Curious why you had a bike rack packed, and also more importantly, why you packed your pedals.
Oh,
The helmet makes sense, I think. For
Yep.
them, but the pedals was a
Yeah.
I was really curious about that too, actually. That's a good question. Yeah.
So I traveled, so I flew with my bike for the first time to Hawaii in February, and it was the most terrifying experience because I packed my baby in a box, it was a bike box, and we went to the airport and everything. I spent weeks packing this thing and making sure it was all covered. And then airport security's like, Kate, we need to check inside. And they open it up and I'm like, weeks. And then they just kind of threw it all back together and I'm like, ah! So anyways, everything made it safe. It was a great experience after I had it done. But going to the UK, we were in London, hotel rooms are tiny there. I didn't want to bother with the bike. So I brought my own pedals because for my road and gravel riding, I clip in. And so I have specific shoes that connect to the pedal. I'm also a data nerd, and I have power pedals. So it tells me my output. I can do workouts based on that, and just be a nerd. Yeah, and then it's super easy. You can take any bike and they thread right in, and I've basically got all of my own kit that my body's used to, and I'm not just going and putting my runners on.
Very
Yeah.
cool. And how do you make sure that bike is like up to your standards? Like, how do you find a bike? Like, is it?
At this stage, I was happy to have a bike. So
Fair.
it ended up, so I had the bike shop that I had rented from that first trip to Scotland. I'd sent them an email and said, hey guys, I don't know if you still rent bikes, but I'm coming. I'd like to rent one for because that time it was just, I borrowed it for a day. This time I said, I'd like to rent it for like a couple weeks. I had such a great time. Thanks. Here's a picture of me in your jersey at a fondo in Canada. And so I got a reply saying, hey, we haven't rented bikes for a couple years now, but well played on the jersey photo. We can make the arrangements for you. And so they ended up getting me a Cannondale gravel bike, which at the time I was like, ooh, gravel bike, it's like the UK, I want paved, but whatever, I'm happy to ride. And it worked out so well actually, because I could take it on these bike paths that weren't all paved, and yeah, it was just the most amazing time. So at this stage, like any bike that I can ride in another country, I think is such an awesome experience that I will not be a bike snob. Again, you can take anything. If somebody's gonna lend me their 90s mountain bike, I'll take that if that's all I've got going for me. Like, it's just being able to go out and see things that you wouldn't otherwise get to see is just neat. So yeah, I'll take any bike.
Yeah, it's really about
So
the
if you want to
riding
invite me
experience.
to your community, I'll come ride with you.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That
Anyway.
actually transitions very well.
More questions.
Whereabouts? Yeah, a few. Whereabouts does Shred Sisters have coaches?
Yeah.
Throughout BC.
Yeah, so in BC, we are here in Cranbrook, Kimberley, just a little bit north of us, Golden, Revelstoke. In Alberta, they're in Bragg Creek and Calgary, and Hinton is a new addition to the Shred Sisters communities. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I might be missing a few in Alberta, but yeah.
And we have it on good authority that the head of Shred Sisters, Audrey,
Yeah,
is based in Golden.
she is, yeah,
Yeah.
and she's one of the most amazing individuals ever. But yeah, she's based in Golden, and she travels to Canmore as well and helps out with the clinics there. I think when she started, she might have started Shred Sisters when she lived in Canmore, and then it's relocated to Golden. But yeah, she's super involved and comes down and rides with us, and she's great.
She's so awesome. We interviewed her briefly just to get a sense of Shred Sisters, and she's the one who obviously put us in touch with you.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like so lovely. Some people that are super deep into a sport are terrible to talk about the sport. They're like, all jargon, all everything, this happens, and then this happens. And you're like, great, I know you were doing the sport.
Yeah.
But talking to Audrey, like I said, I know nothing about biking. And like talking to her, I got excited about it.
Yeah.
Like she was so accessible and great with it and lovely to talk to.
And she's so humble as well. Like, she has built, such a cycling empire. I call it an empire because I just think it's so amazing what she's built. And she does not want the recognition. Like, she would not come on here and be like, I am the owner of, she would say, I'm a coach for Shred Sisters, because for her, it's not about the notoriety or being recognized for it. It really is the passion about getting women out there to cycle. And yeah, I just think that makes it even cooler for her. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She's so
On either side of the age spectrum, is there an age limit for joining a class?
Yeah. So I've had 15-year-olds was my youngest students, and we just needed their parents' permission. And I don't know how old my oldest is, but I have had like 50 plus specific classes. So oftentimes there's again that intimidation factor of, well, I'm older, I'm not as fast as the young girls, I don't want to slow them down. So Audrey developed a 50 plus clinic to help people with that, so that they're with their peers as well, which has been successful. And yeah, but no I would say the age range would be like if you're too young, we don't do kids programs. But yeah, sky's the limit.
What's your best advice for recovering from a crash?
Oh, good question. I have that experience. It really depends on the kind of crash, right? Like, so I had unfortunate incident where I broke my ulna and my thumb, and I was not going fast. I was not doing something crazy. I rolled over a rock that wasn't stable, and so I shifted to one side, and I just literally wasn't going fast enough. So in that situation, once I healed up, it was a matter of going back and listening to your body. So again, red light, hey, I'm not into this, cool, I need to be confident, but rewriting that, knowing that you're capable of doing it. If you've experienced a crash and it's doing a feature or something that you were trying and you were already a little hesitant for, is working on those basic skills again. Everything can boil down to a basic skill. And so starting from the basics again and working your way up. But as soon as you can, get back on that bike and continue to pedal, because the longer you stay off, the more fear that you have and the more that you internalize in your head, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know, if it was over a feature, cool, let's just go for some easy pedals and get out there and spin those legs and remember why you got to cycling. Don't let it be fearful. Don't let that fear take over.
That's
Cool.
really good advice.
Yeah.
Really, really good advice for all sorts of things.
Yeah,
Honestly.
true.
That was, I think, the most audience questions we've had so far.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot of excitement already, which is awesome.
Great.
I
I can't wait for all the invites to come. Be like, hey, Graham, I got to travel through BC now. Everyone's going to show me their trails.
will tell we're traveling through BC the next couple weeks. We'll tell them all about it.
Perfect.
Tell them about Shred Sisters. We were just on the island, and Mike was like, every woman we met, he was like, have you heard of Shred Sisters? You should be right. And I was like, I don't think they come this far, but you should know they exist.
Well, yeah, but one of the longest, or the coaches that had been with Audrey the longest since she first started, she lived in Invermere for years, and I think she moved to the island somewhere. So, yeah, maybe.
I did actually meet a woman on the island who coaches with, it's like Easy Life Cycle, Simple Life Cycle. And I was telling her about you guys, and she was like, oh my God, yeah, I follow them. They're so cool.
Yeah.
I was like, aren't they?
Totally. Shreds, the Tip Tuesday that Audrey does on the Facebook page is like, it's just so cute. There's no voice, it's just music, and then there's text, but she just does like these big movements, and she wears ridiculous costumes, and it really speaks to me. It's so great.
I've watched quite a few of them. I'm a big fan. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same one was saying, she's like, I just follow Shred Sisters for the amazing photos of mountain biking. That's like mostly why. Like,
Yeah.
I see it. They look so cool.
And all of the communities that it's in, like, just has beautiful, I mean, forests anywhere are beautiful, but yeah, we're living in a particularly gorgeous part of the province for sure.
Very true. Very true. It is gorgeous here.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Lisa, so much.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Oh, I'm glad.
I'll give you guys an update on my BC Epic ride.
I'm so excited to hear how that goes. I'm already impressed, especially because you've already done it 3 times in a different way.
Yeah. We'll see. Different.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching.
Thank
This
you.
has been Dusty Tracks BC in Cranbrook with Lisa Barnes here at the good grace of North Star Bicycle Co. All right. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
The sound at this moment, what's taking up space for me to one that forgets my face.